Welcome back, all my sewing friends. My name is Cheryl, and I am going to present to you a pair of pants today that I made using Simplicity 9471. My channel is mostly about sewing. Sometimes I'll throw in something about knitting, but just so happens in the comments last week, Nadine mentioned that she was interested in making this pattern. I was about halfway finished with these pants, and I said, "Hey Nadine, guess what? I'm making 9471. It's a simplicity pattern. I've had it on my radar for a while. I've actually had it purchased. This is one I've never made. And I thought one of these days I'll venture into making these pants. There are a lot of reasons why I like them. There's a lot of top stitching detail on these pants. Like there's two pieces that make up the front leg. You top stitch that seam allowance. So like you're pressing it toward the inseam, you top stitch down. There are two pieces that make up the back of the leg of the pants. You press that also toward the inseam, top stitch that down. Then there's these really cool yoke pieces. I've always liked that detail on pants. My pants are made out of poplin. I purchased it at Hobby Lobby last year, and I decided this was probably a good one to use because the fabric recommendations are like chino, cotton blends, lightweight denim, linen blends, and twill. I figured poplin would fit in there. Let's go for it. It worked great. They look great. I like, you see your yoke pieces. You do have pocket options. You could do this pocket, that pocket. There's back pockets right here. And yes, you see how the leg is done. I can see how that might bother some people. They would say, I don't like that. Well, if you choose a dark fabric, you really don't see it. And that's kind of what I chose to do. I'm going to stick with dark fabrics. It's really not going to show up. But honestly, it doesn't bother me that much now that I have them made. Um, it's supposed to be a baggy pant, which it is, probably a little more baggy than it should be on me, because the only finished measurement on this whole pattern that meant anything to me anyway was the hip. The hip is 52.5 inches for a 24, and the hip for a 22 is 48.5. I fall between those two numbers, and I'm like, okay, do I err? Which one? I'm like halfway, exactly halfway between the two numbers. Like, do I err to the bigger side? Do I err to the small side? I mean, we are talking about hips. I probably could have erred to the small side and would have been fine. But I really was worried about that waist. I thought, what do I do? I know it's got the elastic casing in the back. I probably shouldn't be worried about it. Obviously, they're not. So I just went with that because I thought you've got like $15 maybe tied up in this fabric, maybe less than that. I did buy it on sale. So, maybe just go ahead and do the bigger side. So I just went ahead and cut the bigger one. I could have gone with a smaller one. I probably could have cut a 20 and been fine. But I'm going to make these again. This time, though, I'm going to use a lightweight denim. Now, I have two to choose from in my closet over here. So if the first one fails, I just make another one. I'm determined to find what size I can get by with on this. So there are a couple of darts in this pants pattern. There are two in the lower back of the leg, which I could get if they were bigger darts. They're very, very tiny. But when I was pressing these pants, I could kind of see why they had them because it narrows that down or in the back. So I guess I do see the reason for it. And I know that sometimes pants will have darts in the back behind the knee. And that's fine. I just think it helps with the not being so bulky when you're sitting down. And I think that's the purpose of why they put them there. Although this one is also a tiny narrow dart. And I'm like, could it be a little bit bigger? Okay, so why do I like these pants? The top stitching, the pocket options. You know, the look of them is very me. It had elastic waist casing in the back, plus for comfort. And then the more fitted kind of waistband in the front, which is also very nice to have. So my slowdown points. You know, when I first cut the thing out, I thought just sew the fronts together, do your top stitching on the panel, you know, do your back legs together, do your top stitching. I think I even went ahead and added the yoke pieces to the back and the front and did the top stitching there as well. Then all the top stitching was finished. I was done with it. The next day I came in and I said, we're going to put in the zipper. I've not done a zipper in so long. I mean, I can't even tell you the last time I put a zipper in a garment. Now, I've put zippers in bags. I've done that. Here we are. We're going to talk about these pictures because I relied on the pictures as well as the directions to help me figure out the position for the first part of the zipper that you sew down. Side that you're working with right here. You're going to stitch all that down, finishing that edge. You're going to stitch it to the pants on the left side. Then comes the zipper. You'll have this all laid out flat. You see how flat this is right here? That's all flat. And you're stitching that zipper in position. Here it is, right, this one. This one's really showing up well. Stitch. You're understitching your fly. Well, that is what I used to position the zipper teeth. Just get it pinned in, or ever how you want to do it, hand stitch it in, whatever, and just test it to make sure that the teeth are not going to extend to the edge of the garment, and then it would be showing the finished edge. You don't want that. And when I first read these directions and I flipped it over, that's exactly what my teeth were doing. They were showing. And I thought, I don't know. Back it up a bit. Well, I think that's what they really mean. But the directions to me in that one area just seems a little foggy. The other side of the zipper, you have another piece, piece 5, that gets sewn in. And you're going to stitch your zipper. You see where it's being sewn in right here. And you're going to stitch your zipper to that side, the other side of the zipper. And that the zipper at this point is going to be facing you just like it would when you have it on. I had to hand stitch that in just to get that zipper to go in straight. Every time I would try to do it with pins, it would force the fabric down and I would have this little tiny wrinkle. You know, we don't want wrinkles. We don't want wrinkles there. You know, you want that to be smooth. What I ended up doing was I took some long hand stitches. Now you could probably use that tape too to just keep it in place, but I did long hand stitches and I stitched that in place from the bottom up, and then I worried about closing anything else that I needed to as I finished the garment. So that worked well for me. It's a slow down part, but you want to take your time. You want to make sure that's accurate. You don't want it to be buckling anywhere. You really don't. You want it smooth. You want it to look right. So just take your time. And, you know, if you need an extra break in there, just take an extra break. You walk away for 10 minutes, get a drink of water or your favorite beverage or whatever, and just, you know, come back to it and say, okay, now I'm ready. I think that anybody can do this as long as you know that, oh, this is stressing me out at the moment. Walk away. Walk away from it. And also lengthen your stitch length because it makes it a lot easier to take those stitches out. So I always use a 3, but when I was kind of like on the fence about the position of this, was this going to work, I did a longer stitch length. I think I did a 3.5 the first time I sewed in that last side. And then I stitched again once I knew I was happy with it. The waistband is the other slow down point for you. You can have your waistband sewed together. It's one of those do the legs, get them and the yokes, get all that sewed together. Go ahead and do your waistband and have that all sewed together. You put the waistband on, and it tells you to go ahead and finish putting down the, finished edges to match the seam, and you get all that stitched down. Well, then they want you to put the elastic in. It's really hard to put elastic in half of a waistband. I mean, it's just in the back part. It is half of your waistband. And not get it twisted, which was a big worry. Actually, the first time I put it in, my little elastic feeder tool came off, and the elastic actually flung about halfway down that casing. You can't get that. You have to take it all out and start over. So the second attempt was more successful. I did ditch the tool and went with the old-fashioned large safety pin. I just happened to have some around, and that actually fed through there better. But getting it stitched down, because you're supposed to stitch the elastic in place in the ditch of the, the seam between the casing and the right front casing, left front. It works okay, but I sat there and thought, haven't I in the past done this? And I think it might work better. At least for me it will. Or you could put your elastic, sew it in place right here. It might be better to see it right here. You're going to use that. You're going to have your elastic just a little bit over that line. You can also trim it back. I mean, you can have it as long as you want it, just trim it. But you'll stitch it in the ditch. Stitch it in the ditch. It's floating right there. And you can put that waistband on. You could stitch it on there, or it's already on your garment, and then you do the elastic part. You can trim your seam allowance down between the pant and the elastic and the waistband, and you take that and fold it. You know how you just fold that down, the other half, and you're going to stitch it in place to finish those edges and hide those raw edges. I prefer to use hand stitching. I think it's just because, it's a nice, quiet, relaxing thing to do is why I like it. And I think that would work much better than trying to feed that through that casing after it's finished. But that's me. You might feel differently about it, and that's fine. I'm just offering an option. You can try that if you want, or you can try it the way it's written, and if you don't like it, you've got a backup plan. My backup plan on the second pair is to try this, because I know I've done this before on something where the elastic was put in, and then I folded down the casing on the inside and finished all that, and it worked great. If you're 5'7" like me, these pants are probably going to be a little short, unless you like your pants to be a little shorter because you've got, the perfect boot, the perfect sandal. Like this girl here, she's wearing these really pretty strappy sandals with a heel. It's a short heel, but those are really cute. You want to show those off. I get it. You got the perfect shoe to wear with it, go with what they recommend. If you don't, or you really don't like your pants that short, then you might want to add 2 to 3 inches more at the bottom, just to be sure that you have it the length you would like for it to be. Now, I probably will wear these with some kind of boot until summer, and then I'll switch to sandals. But even with sandals, I still like my pants to be a little longer, like touching the top of my foot. That's how long I like my pants. The inside of my pants, because I did one little extra thing that I thought made it look more tailored, in my opinion. I mean, you might not agree, but I thought it added a little something to it and was a missed opportunity on the pattern. So here's my pants. You see, we've got the yoke, and you can see that top stitching there. This is the front. You've got your back here. You can see that top stitching, and you see that elastic is just gently gathered. On the inside, or my contrasting pocket fabric, I use this. I have lots of this. So I can use that also on my denim pair. But I decided those yoke pieces to cut them and line that part. So this step was put in before I did the waistband. That's when I thought of it. I said, I think I want to cut some lining pieces just to cover the yokes. This one comes just right over the zipper tape. And this one came right over that finished edge that I did right there. I just laid it there, right there. And I did hand stitch that down as well. I hope you enjoyed the little fashion show. I enjoyed kind of putting that together, just so you could see the different ideas I was going for, trying to mix match with these pants. Now, what do I want to do next? Well, I would like to try a sample of this pattern, the Dani shorts and pants. Thought I could do the shorts pretty easily. There are elastic waist. They have the side pocket. They have 2 pockets in the back if I so wanted to do that. Notice those pants are a little more narrow at the leg bottom. I think that this might work really good for me. So I want to try this. Now I will probably cut it out using the size in between 16 and 18 because that's where most of my measurements fall. So that's probably what I will try to get done. Hopefully tomorrow I would have time to like whip these together really quick, and you might not see them finished, but I think you could see enough of them. I'll just put in a little video. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for sharing and liking, and give me your comments. Give me some feedback. What do you think? I look forward to making my second pair of pants, which by this pattern, the Simplicity pattern, which I'll probably try to have for next week so that you can see the changes I made and how they fit compared to how these fit. And these shorts, and maybe, just maybe, I get that Sew Frugal Challenge made, and I'll have that top as well. So that kind of makes up for not having everything that I promised this week. Thank you for joining me again, and thank you for all your comments. You're just lovely. And Nadine, I hope this video helped you.